the stillness of the deep. Have you ever wondered what true silence actually feels like, away from the hum of electricity and the constant movement of the air? Is it possible that the deepest parts of our world hold a kind of quiet that we can't quite find on the surface, a stillness that has remained unchanged for millions of years? Perhaps there is a comfort in knowing that far beneath our feet there are places where time seems to hold its breath. To understand the silence of the deep, we first have to look at the world we live in, where sound is a constant companion. Up here, the air is thin and light, allowing every vibration to travel freely. We hear the wind in the trees, the distant murmur of traffic, and the rhythmic sound of our own breathing. But as we move downward, into the earth or beneath the waves, the very fabric of the environment begins to change. The world becomes heavier, more dense, and the frantic energy of the surface starts to fade away. This transition into the deep isn't just about a lack of noise. It is about the presence of a profound, weightless peace. It is a slow descent into a realm where the laws of the surface no longer apply. In these hidden spaces, the pressure of the earth and the water acts like a soft, heavy blanket, pressing down on everything and smoothing out the jagged edges of sound. It is here, in the quietest corners of our planet, that we can begin to reflect on the nature of stillness and the incredible journey of the elements that settle there. The silence we find at great depths is not empty. It is a full, rich silence, shaped by the immense weight of the world above. It is the sound of layers of stone and water pressing together, creating a sanctuary where the chaos of the sun-drenched world cannot reach. As we begin this journey into the quiet, we leave behind the urgency of the day and step into a space where every moment is measured by the slow, steady heartbeat of the earth itself. In the world above, we are used to the idea of space being filled with air, a light and invisible medium that moves with the slightest touch. But as we move deeper into the crust of the earth, the very idea of open space begins to dissolve. Down here, everything is solid, dense, and incredibly heavy. The silence of the deep is, in many ways, the result of this immense physical pressure. Imagine miles upon miles of ancient rock, stacked layer upon layer, pressing down with a force that is difficult for the human mind to truly grasp. This pressure does something remarkable to sound. On the surface, sound waves travel through the air by bouncing off objects and vibrating through the atmosphere. But deep underground, there is no air to carry these vibrations. The rock is so tightly packed that it becomes a barrier, absorbing energy and muffling the rest of the world. It is as if the earth itself is acting as a massive, natural insulator, protecting its core from the noise of the universe. When you are deep within a cave or a subterranean chamber, the silence feels thick, almost tangible, as if the weight of the mountain above is pressing the sound right out of the air. There is a strange sense of security in this weight. We often think of pressure as something stressful, but in the context of the deep earth, it is a stabilizing force. It holds everything in place, preventing the sudden movements and rapid changes that create noise. In this environment, the only sounds are the incredibly slow groans of tectonic plates or the occasional rhythmic drip of water that has taken centuries to filter through the stone. These sounds don't break the silence. They only serve to emphasize how vast and enduring the quiet really is. As we settle into the thought of this immense pressure, we can feel a sense of grounding. The deep earth doesn't rush, and it doesn't react to the fleeting concerns of the surface. It simply exists, holding its form under the weight of time. This stillness invites us to let go of our own inner noise, allowing the heavy, peaceful layers of the world to settle around us like a protective cocoon. We are moving away from the vibration of the modern world and into a space where the only thing that matters is the steady, unmoving presence of the ground beneath us. Deep within the silence of the earth, there is a movement so slow that it almost mimics stillness. It is the journey of water, filtering through the tiny pores and microscopic cracks in the stone. When rain falls on the surface, it begins a descent that can last for thousands of years. This water isn't rushing or flowing like a river. It is seeping, one molecule at a time, moving through the darkness with a patience that the surface world rarely understands. Each drop carries with it the quiet memory of the sky, but as it travels deeper, that memory fades into the cool, dark rhythm of the rock. This slow movement is one of the reasons the deep earth feels so profoundly calm. There is no turbulence here, no splashing or crashing of waves. Instead, there is a gentle, steady progression that follows the pull of gravity in its purest form. As the water passes through layers of limestone, basalt, and granite, it is purified and silenced. The rock acts as a filter, not just for impurities, but for the chaotic energy of the weather above. By the time a drop of water reaches the deepest chambers, it has become part of the silence itself, adding its tiny weight to the vast, hidden reservoirs that sit in perfect equilibrium. In these subterranean spaces, the water doesn't move with the wind, it moves with the breath of the planet. There are places deep underground where the water has remained undisturbed for so long that it has forgotten the taste of light. This ancient water stays perfectly still, reflecting nothing but the dark, heavy walls of its stone cradle. To imagine this water is to imagine a state of total rest. It is a place where there is no need to hurry, no destination to reach, and no cycle to complete. It is simply there, existing in a state of permanent, cool tranquility. When we think about this slow, vertical journey, we can find a parallel in our own path toward sleep. Much like that drop of water, we are slowly filtering away the noise and the light of our day. We are moving through layers of thought and memory, letting the heavy, calm pressure of the night settle around us. We are descending into our own quiet reservoirs of rest, where the movement is slow, the air is still, and the world above feels very far away. The silence of the deep isn't just a physical place. It's a state of being that we are now gently entering. As we travel further into the quiet depths, we must eventually consider the nature of the light that we have left behind. On the surface, our lives are dictated by the sun and the moon, by the constant shifting of shadows and the bright clarity of the day. But deep within the earth, there is a different kind of reality, one defined by the total absence of photons. This is a darkness that is not merely the absence of light, but a physical presence in its own right. It is a soft, velvety void that wraps itself around the stone and the water, creating an environment where the eyes can finally rest. In this absolute darkness, the concept of distance changes. Without visual landmarks, the mind begins to rely on the feeling of the space, the coolness of the air, and the heavy, unmoving silence that fills every corner of the underground landscape. This lack of light contributes significantly to the silence because it removes the visual stimulation that often keeps our minds alert and racing. In the deep, there is nothing to track, nothing to watch, and nothing to react to. The brain, freed from the duty of processing images, begins to slow its own internal frequency. We often forget how much energy it takes to simply look at the world, to interpret the colors and the movements that surround us. Down here, several miles beneath the soil, that burden is lifted. The darkness is a sanctuary for the senses, a place where the soul can expand into the quiet corners of the earth without being pulled back by the distractions of the visible world. It is a place where the world feels as though it has been wrapped in a thick, dark silk, muffling not just the sound, but the very vibration of existence. Beneath the layers of ancient sediment and volcanic rock, the darkness has its own weight. It feels like a physical embrace, a reminder that we are held by the planet in a space that has never known the bite of a winter wind or the heat of a summer sun. This is a world of constant, unchanging temperature, where the seasons do not exist. Whether it is a frozen January on the surface or a sweltering August, the deep earth remains the same, cool, dark, and perfectly still. This permanence is a form of silence in itself. It is a silence of the clock, where the passage of hours and days loses its meaning. In the deep, time is measured not by seconds, but by the slow accumulation of minerals, the gradual cooling of magma, and the imperceptible shifting of the continental plates. When we contemplate this eternal shadow, we realize that it is the foundation upon which the rest of the world is built. We live our lives on the thin, noisy crust of the planet, but the vast majority of our world exists in this quiet, dark equilibrium. There is a profound sense of peace in acknowledging that most of the earth is currently at rest, undisturbed by the frantic pace of human civilization. This deep-seated stillness acts as an anchor for the planet. It is the steady, silent core that allows the surface to be so full of life and movement. By focusing on this darkness, we allow our own internal clocks to reset. We align ourselves with the slow, ancient pulse of the stone, letting go of the need to see or to do. We are simply being, cradled in the immense, dark silence that has existed since the very beginning of time. In the heart of this darkness, even the atoms seem to move with more intention. There is no wind to stir the dust, no current to agitate the water, unless the earth itself decides to move. It is a kingdom of pure potential, where everything is waiting, suspended in a state of perfect grace. As you listen to the story of this depth, imagine your own surroundings becoming as soft and as quiet as these subterranean halls. The world outside your room may still be moving, but here, in the space you have created for rest, you are descending into that same protected silence. You are becoming part of the architecture of the deep, where the shadows are kind, the air is still, and the only requirement is to let the weight of the world carry you into a long, dreamless sleep deep beneath the crust, where the silence is at its most absolute. We find ourselves surrounded by the great storytellers of our planet, the rocks themselves. To our ears, a stone is a silent thing, an inert object that possesses neither voice nor breath. But in the grand orchestration of the Earth's interior, stone is the primary medium for a different kind of language. On the surface, we are accustomed to sound traveling through the air, which is thin and fleeting. In the deep, sound travels through solid matter. Granite, basalt, and quartz are far more efficient at carrying vibrations than the air we breathe. Yet, because there is so little to disturb them, these rocks hold a silence that is dense and vibrating with potential. It is a resonant quiet, like the air inside a great cathedral after the final note of an organ has faded away, leaving only the memory of the music in the very walls. When we think about the silence of the deepest parts of the earth, we are really thinking about the absence of friction. Almost every sound we hear in our daily lives is the result of something rubbing against something else, or something breaking, or something moving through a fluid medium like air or water. But in the deep reaches of the mantle, or within the heart of a massive tectonic plate, there is no friction because there is no room for it. Everything is held in a state of immense solid compression. The atoms are pressed so closely together that they move as one. This creates a specialized kind of stillness where the very concept of a noise becomes impossible. To make a sound, you need space to vibrate. But in the deep, the earth is so full of itself that it has no room for the chaos of noise. It is a world of perfect, solid continuity. This density creates a profound sense of isolation from the vibrations of the surface. If a great storm rages above, with thunder that shakes the windows of houses and wind that uproots ancient oaks, the rocks miles below feel absolutely nothing. The energy of the storm is dissipated long before it can reach these depths. Even the most violent human activities, the roaring of jet engines, the construction of cities, the constant hum of billions of people, are merely a faint, indistinguishable tremor that vanishes into the first few hundred feet of soil. To be deep within the earth is to be truly disconnected from the frantic energy of life. It is the ultimate boundary, a place where the noise of history simply cannot go. This realization brings a deep sense of relief, a feeling that there is a place where nothing can reach us, where the air is replaced by the steady, unyielding embrace of the world's foundation. There is a quiet dignity in the way these deep layers of the earth have endured. They have been silent for millions of years, and they will likely remain silent for millions more. While we measure our lives in seasons and years, the stones beneath us measure theirs in the slow cooling of the planet's core. This vast difference in pacing is part of what makes the deep feel so peaceful. When we align our thoughts with the timeline of the earth, the stresses of our day-to-day existence begin to feel small and distant. We are leaning our backs against a wall of time that is so thick and so strong that it can support the weight of everything we have ever known. In the silence of the stone, we find a partner for our own rest, a steady, unchanging presence that doesn't ask anything of us. Imagine for a moment the sensation of being part of that solid, quiet mass. There is no wind to chill you, no light to distract you, and no sound to pull you out of your reflections. You are surrounded by the deep, resonant warmth of the planet, a heat that comes from within rather than from the sun. This heat is a slow, pulsing energy, the remaining glow of the Earth's creation. It is a quiet warmth, one that doesn't flicker like a flame, but glows with the steadiness of a dying ember. As you drift further into this thought, the boundaries of your own room begin to feel as solid and as protective as the layers of the earth. You are safe within your own space, insulated by the quiet and supported by the same gravity that holds the deepest stones in their place. The silence isn't an empty void. It is a heavy, warm, and ancient blanket that has been waiting for you to lay your head down and finally let go. The deeper we go, the more we realize that the earth is not a cold, dead place, but a living, breathing entity that simply moves at a pace we aren't used to. The silence is its way of breathing. Every few centuries, a plate might shift by an inch, creating a low-frequency hum that no human ear could ever detect, a sound so deep that it is more of a feeling than a noise. This is the music of the spheres, played out in the dark, heavy theater of the subterranean world. It is a reminder that even in peace, the most absolute stillness, there is a gentle guiding force at work. As you listen, let that force guide your own breathing. Let your inhales be as slow as the rising of mountains, and your exhales as long as the cooling of ancient stone. You are sinking into the deep, where the silence is a song of home. While we often imagine the interior of our planet as a solid mass of stone, we cannot truly understand the silence of the deep without turning our thoughts toward the vast, liquid canyons of the world's oceans. As we descend into the abyss, we encounter a silence that is perhaps even more mysterious than the one found in the heart of a mountain. In the deep ocean, sound behaves differently. On the surface, the crashing of waves and the cries of gulls create a landscape of constant motion. But as you sink deeper, the blue fades to a dark, heavy indigo, and finally to an absolute, unyielding black. Here, the weight of the water above creates a pressure that is so immense, it would crush a steel hull, like a piece of paper. Yet in this very pressure, there is a strange and beautiful stillness. In these deepest trenches, miles below the surface, the water is cold, still, and incredibly dense. It acts as a massive acoustic dampener. The sound of the world above, the ships, the storms, the migratory calls of whales, becomes a distant memory. This is the realm of the Hadals, named after the underworld. And it is here that we find a silence that feels almost liquid. It is a thick, enveloping quiet that wraps around every living thing, muffling the vibration of life. Because water is much denser than air, it carries sound over vast distances. But at these extreme depths, there is very little to make a sound in the first place. The creatures that live here move with a slow, ghostly grace, their bodies adapted to a world where energy must be conserved at all costs. There is no frantic hunting, no sudden bursts of speed. Everything is a slow-motion dance in the dark. This liquid silence is further enhanced by the marine snow, a constant, gentle drift of organic particles falling from the sunlit world above. To imagine this snow is to visualize the ultimate form of quiet movement. It takes weeks, sometimes months, for these tiny flecks of life to reach the bottom. They fall through the water column like dust motes in a darkened room, settling onto the seabed in a soft, silken layer that has been accumulating for eons. This layer of fine sediment acts like a thick carpet, absorbing what little sound remains. When a deep-sea creature moves across this floor, it makes no noise. There is no crunch of gravel or splash of water. There is only the silent, velvet touch of the abyss. This is a place where the concept of a footfall doesn't exist, and where the very idea of a shout is swallowed by the endless, heavy blue. There is something deeply comforting about the thought of this underwater sanctuary. It is a world that remains completely unaffected by the changing seasons or the rising and falling of empires. While we worry about the passage of time, the deep ocean floor exists in a state of stasis, where the temperature never fluctuates more than a few degrees, and the darkness is never interrupted by the sun. This permanence creates a psychological silence, a place where the mind can stop its constant scanning for danger or change. In the deep sea, there is only the present moment, held in a cold, steady embrace. As you listen to the description of this weight, let yourself feel as though you are sinking, not in a way that is frightening, but in a way that is profoundly liberating. You are drifting down through the layers of the ocean, leaving behind the light, the noise, and the pressure of your own thoughts. The deeper you go, the more the water feels like a part of you. The pressure outside matches the stillness inside. We often think of the ocean as a place of power and storm, but at its heart, it is the most peaceful place on Earth. It is the womb of the planet, a dark and silent cradle where life first began and where it continues to exist in its most primal, quiet form. To contemplate this depth is to touch the very edge of the infinite. It is a reminder that no matter how loud our lives become, there is always a vast, silent reservoir of peace waiting for us, miles beneath the waves. The silence of the deep ocean is not the silence of death, but the silence of a deep, restorative sleep. It is the quiet of a world that is completely at rest, satisfied with its own existence. Imagine the bioluminescent flickers of the few creatures that call this place home, small, soft glows that appear and disappear like distant stars in a midnight sky. These lights don't illuminate the darkness. They only serve to highlight how vast and all-encompassing the shadows really are. They move with a rhythmic, pulsing quiet, a visual heartbeat in the deep. As you watch these imaginary lights in your mind's eye, feel your own heart rate slowing to match their pace. You are becoming part of the abyss, part of the silent, heavy water that supports all things. There is no need to swim, no need to struggle. The density of the water holds you perfectly still, suspended in a state of total weightlessness and total peace. The silence is your oxygen now, filling your lungs with a cool, calm clarity that washes away the heat of the day. As we linger in this underwater canyon, we realize that the silence is not just an absence of noise, but a presence of connection. Everything in the deep is connected by the same water, the same pressure, and the same darkness. It is a unified world, a single, vast organism of quiet. This is the same unity we seek when we close our eyes at night. We are looking for that point where our individual worries dissolve into the great, dark ocean of sleep. By visualizing the deepest parts of the sea, we find the path to that dissolution. We allow ourselves to be swallowed by the kind, velvet silence of the world, knowing that we are safe, that we are held, and that the world will continue its slow, silent rhythm without us for a while. The deep is waiting, and it is very, very quiet. Beneath the heavy silence of the seabed and the dense layers of the continental crust, we eventually reach a place where the earth itself begins to vibrate with a different kind of energy. This is the transition toward the mantle and the core, a realm where the silence is not born of cold or stillness, but of a heat so intense and a pressure so great that it creates a state of perfect, flowing equilibrium. Here, the rock is no longer brittle or jagged. It is plastic, moving with the slow, deliberate grace of honey. In this environment, the silence takes on a warm, rhythmic quality. It is the sound of the Earth's internal convection, a process so vast and so slow that it operates on a scale of millions of years. This is the true heartbeat of our world, a low-frequency pulse that underpins everything we know, yet remains completely silent to our physical ears. When we think of heat, we often think of the crackle of a fire or the hiss of steam, sounds that are energetic and sharp. But the heat of the Earth's interior is a silent heat. It is a slow, steady radiance that comes from the decay of ancient elements and the leftover energy of the planet's violent birth. This warmth doesn't move through the air. It moves through the very fabric of the Earth, conducted from atom to atom in a silent chain of energy. Because there is no atmosphere to vibrate and no empty space to echo, this immense energy exists in a state of total acoustic isolation. It is a powerful reminder that the most significant forces in our universe often operate in complete silence. The shifting of the mantle, the rising of heat plumes, and the slow rotation of the iron core are all massive, world-altering events that occur without making a single sound. This deep, internal silence is perhaps the most grounding thought of all. It suggests that at the very center of all the chaos, the weather, and the noise of our lives, there is a core of absolute stability and warmth. The planet is not just a cold rock floating in space. It is a living, breathing system that maintains its own internal balance in the dark. This balance is what allows the surface to remain hospitable, what gives us our magnetic field, and what keeps the continents moving in their slow, silent ballet. To connect with this depth is to realize that we are supported by a foundation that is fundamentally peaceful. The core of the Earth doesn't care about the storms on the surface or the ticking of our clocks. It simply glows with a steady, unyielding light, providing the gravity and the warmth that hold our lives together. As we visualize this deep, glowing center, we can feel a sense of internal warmth beginning to spread through our own bodies. Much like the Earth's core, our own inner selves have a place of quiet, radiating energy that remains undisturbed by the outside world. When we prepare for sleep, we are effectively withdrawing from the crust of our lives. The daily tasks, the conversations, and the sensory inputs, and sinking back into our own quiet center. We are looking for that place where our thoughts move as slowly as the mantle, where our energy is focused inward, and where the noise of the day is replaced by a steady, comforting glow. This internal retreat is a natural process, a returning to the source of our own stability. The silence of the Earth's interior also teaches us about the beauty of the unseen. We live in a world that prioritizes what can be seen and heard, but the vast majority of our planet's mass exists in a state of hidden, silent work. There is a great dignity in this, the idea of performing a vital role without the need for recognition or sound. The stones and the metals of the deep earth are the silent guardians of our existence. They hold the weight of the oceans. They provide the soil for the forests, and they keep the atmosphere in place, all while remaining perfectly still and quiet. As you lie in the stillness of your own room, you are participating in this same silent stewardship. You are letting your body do the quiet work of rest, repair, and reflection. You are trusting in the unseen processes of your own mind and heart to guide you through the night. Imagine the layers of the earth between you and the core, the miles of soil, the ancient beds of limestone, the dense volcanic rock, and the shimmering heat of the mantle. Each layer acts as a filter, removing another layer of noise, another layer of light, until there is nothing left but the pure fundamental essence of the planet. This is the destination of our journey tonight. We have traveled from the breezy surface down through the heavy pressure of the rock, into the velvet darkness of the ocean, and finally into the warm, glowing silence of the heart of the world. Each step has been a letting go, a shedding of the unnecessary, until we have reached a state of perfect simplicity. In this space, time has no meaning. The core has been warm for 4 billion years, and it will remain warm for billions more. Against this backdrop, the few hours we spend in sleep are but a heartbeat, a tiny moment of rest in an eternal cycle of quiet energy. This perspective allows us to release the urgency of our schedules and the pressure of our worries. We are part of something much larger and much older than ourselves. We are cradled by a planet that knows how to hold its breath, how to stay warm in the cold of space, and how to remain silent in a noisy universe. As you settle into this final depth, let the warmth of the Earth's core fill your thoughts. Feel the heaviness of your limbs, the steadiness of your breath, and the absolute safety of the dark. You are home, at the center of the world, where everything is quiet, everything is still, and everything is exactly as it should be. As we rest in the quiet embrace of the deep, it is worth reflecting on the incredible journey that the ground beneath us has taken over the spans of geological time. The silence we experience today is not a static thing. It is a collected history, a reservoir of all the moments that have passed since the Earth was a molten sphere cooling in the darkness of the cosmos. Every layer of rock, from the softest clay to the hardest diamond, carries a memory of its creation. Yet it holds that memory in a state of perfect, unmoving hush. When we look at a mountain, we see a monument to power and height. But when we consider the roots of that mountain, the parts that reach deep into the crust, we find the true source of its strength. Those roots exist in a world of absolute stillness, supporting the weight of the peaks without a single sound of protest. This relationship between height and depth is one of the most beautiful symmetries of our planet. For every jagged cliff that reaches towards the clouds, there is a corresponding foundation that reaches into the silence. This foundation is where the real work happens. It is here that the pressure of the mountain's own mass is transmuted into a steady, grounding force. This process of transformation is a silent one. We often think that great changes must be accompanied by great noise, the roar of an avalanche, or the crack of a lightning bolt. But the most significant shifts on our planet, such as the rising of the Himalayas or the widening of the Atlantic Ocean, happen at a pace that is completely silent to the human ear. It is a slow, rhythmic progression that honors the quiet, moving with a patience that spans across the eras of the dinosaurs, the ice ages, and the rise of humanity. In the deep, this silence becomes a form of wisdom. The earth has seen everything, and it has absorbed all of it into its quiet layers. The fossils of ancient ferns, the shells of long-extinct sea creatures, and the traces of prehistoric rain are all locked away in the stone, preserved in a state of eternal rest. To be in the presence of this depth is to be in the presence of a vast, planetary library, where the books are made of mineral and the pages are separated by millions of years. But unlike a human library, there is no rustling of paper or whispering of voices. There is only the profound, resonant quiet of things that no longer need to move. This perspective is incredibly soothing for a mind that is used to the rapid-fire pace of modern life. It reminds us that there is a place where everything is saved, where nothing is lost, and where the ultimate state of being is one of peaceful, unchanging presence. As you lie still, imagine that your own memories are like these layers of the earth. The events of your day, the conversations you've had, and the tasks you've completed are all settling down, moving away from the surface of your consciousness and finding their place in the deeper strata of your mind. You don't need to hold on to them tightly. The weight of the night will naturally press them into a state of quiet reflection. Just as the earth doesn't struggle to remember the ancient seas that once covered its surface, you don't need to struggle to process the details of your life. They are becoming part of your foundation, part of the steady, silent core that makes you who you are. This internal settling is a deeply restorative process, a way of clearing the air so that you can drift into a state of pure, uncomplicated being. There is a specific kind of silence that exists in the spaces where the Earth's crust is thickest, far away from the volcanic activity of the plate boundaries. In these cratons, the ancient hearts of the continents, the rock hasn't been disturbed for billions of years. These are the quietest places on the planet. Here, the atoms have had almost an eternity to settle into their most stable configurations. The energy levels are low, the vibrations are non-existent, and the temperature is constant. To contemplate these ancient hearts is to touch the very edge of forever. It is a silence that predates the first breath of life and will remain long after the last song has been sung. It is a reminder that quiet is the default state of the universe, and that noise is merely a brief, flickering exception. By aligning ourselves with this ancient rhythm, we can find a sense of peace that is not dependent on our external circumstances. We are not just people living on the earth. We are part of the earth's long, silent story. Our bodies are made of the same elements that are pressed into the deep stones and dissolved in the dark waters. When we sleep, we are simply returning to that original state of equilibrium. We are letting the gravity of the world pull us into a alignment with the steady, unmoving center of all things. The silence is not something we have to create. It is something we simply have to allow. It is already there, beneath the surface of every thought and every breath, waiting for us to sink down and meet it. As you continue to breathe, let each exhale take you deeper into this subterranean sanctuary. Feel the coolness of the deep stone against your skin, the velvet darkness behind your eyelids, and the heavy, protective weight of the atmosphere above. You are tucked away in a place where no light can reach and no sound can follow. You are safe in the heart of the craton, surrounded by the oldest and quietest parts of the world. The mountains are far above, the oceans are far away, and you are exactly where you belong, in the deep, silent center of your own rest. The earth is holding you, the silence is singing to you, and the night is long and kind. There is nothing left to do but let the weight of the world carry you into the softest, most profound sleep. Deep within the solid embrace of the crust, far beneath the roots of the tallest forests, there are hidden pockets of the world that contain a beauty rarely seen by human eyes. These are the giant crystal caves, ancient hollows where time has slowed to a complete standstill. In these chambers, the silence is not merely an absence of noise, but a delicate, shimmering presence. The air is warm and heavy with moisture, and from the walls and floors, massive pillars of translucent gypsum and quartz reach out like frozen beams of light. These crystals have grown atom by atom over hundreds of thousands of years, undisturbed by the winds, the rains, or the passing of civilizations. To stand in such a place, or to imagine yourself there, is to enter a cathedral of pure geometric quiet, where the only movement is the imperceptible growth of the stone itself. The silence in these crystal halls is unique because it feels crystalline in nature. It is sharp, clear, and perfectly still. On the surface, our world is filled with organic sounds. The rustle of leaves, the scurry of animals, the hum of insects. But down here, in the mineral heart of the earth, the organic world feels like a distant dream. The crystals do not breathe, they do not age in the way we understand, and they do not make a sound. They are the ultimate expression of the earth's patience. They have sat in the darkness for eons, slowly organizing the chaotic elements of the deep into perfect, ordered structures. This order brings with it a profound sense of psychological peace. When we think of these perfect, unmoving shapes, our own minds begin to seek that same sense of structure and calm. We let go of the jagged, disorganized thoughts of the day and allow our consciousness to become as clear and as still as a mountain crystal. There is a strange and comforting warmth in these deep caverns, While the surface might be shivering under a layer of winter frost, the crystal caves are often heated by the Earth's internal energy, creating a humid, tropical environment that feels like a permanent embrace. This warmth is thick and heavy, acting as yet another layer of insulation against the outside world. In this environment, the silence feels soft, as if the air itself is made of velvet. You can imagine yourself reclining against the smooth, cool surface of a giant quartz pillar, feeling the steady, unyielding strength of the earth supporting your weight. The darkness here is not a void, but a rich, protective blanket that allows the mind to expand without limit. There are no walls to the imagination when the eyes have nothing to track and the ears have nothing to hear. In this deep sanctuary, we can reflect on the idea of slow time. On the surface, we measure our lives in minutes and hours, always rushing to the next task, the next appointment, the next conversation. But the crystals measure time in millennia. To a crystal, 1,000 years is but a brief moment, a single heartbeat in its long, slow journey toward perfection. By aligning our perspective with this geological pacing, we can feel the urgency of our own lives beginning to dissolve. The worries that felt so pressing only an hour ago now seem like tiny, fleeting ripples on the surface of a vast and ancient ocean. We are sinking beneath those ripples, down into the depths where the water is still and the stone is steady. We are learning the art of being rather than doing. This transition into slow time is the key to deep, restorative sleep. It is the process of decompressing the mind, letting the high-frequency vibrations of the day settle into a low, steady hum. As you visualize the massive, glowing crystals in the dark, let your breathing slow down to match their rhythm. Inhale the warm, heavy air of the cavern and exhale the last lingering fragments of your day. With each breath, you are becoming more like the stone, grounded, heavy, and at peace. You are part of the Earth's silent architecture, a vital piece of the great, quiet puzzle that makes up our world. There is no need to hurry towards sleep. It will come for you as naturally and as inevitably as the growth of a crystal in the dark. Imagine the absolute stillness of the air in that cave. Not a single molecule is out of place. The dust has long since settled, leaving the atmosphere perfectly clear. In this clarity, your thoughts can finally find their resting place. They are like the minerals in the water, slowly finding their way to the surface of the crystal, where they can be integrated into a larger, more beautiful whole. You are not losing your thoughts. You are simply allowing them to become part of the silence. You are moving deeper into the heart of the world, where the pressure of the earth is a kind and steady force, holding you in place and protecting you from the noise of the universe. The silence of the crystal caves is a gift from the planet, a reminder that peace is always there, waiting for us in the depths. As we linger in this shimmering darkness, we realize that we are never truly alone in our silence. We are surrounded by the ancient memory of the world, by the steady pulse of the core, and by the patient growth of the stone. We are part of a vast, interconnected web of quiet that stretches from the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountain roots. This web is our safety net, a structure of peace that supports us every night as we close our eyes. As you drift further into your own reflections, let the image of the crystal cave be your final guide. Feel the warmth, the weight, and the absolute, unyielding silence. You are safe. You are held. You are resting in the very heart of the earth. Have you ever considered that beneath the bustling streets and the swaying forests, there are rivers that have never seen the sun, flowing in a darkness so absolute that the very concept of color ceases to exist? These are the hidden arteries of our world, the subterranean rivers that carve their way through the bedrock in a journey that is defined by a singular, unhurried purpose. In the open air, a river is a creature of sound, the babble of water over stones, the rush of a waterfall, the splash of a fish breaking the surface. No, deep within the earth, the river moves with a different kind of voice. It is a muffled, rhythmic pulse, a low-frequency vibration that feels more like a hum in the bones than a sound in the ears. In this hidden world, the water flows through tunnels of ancient limestone and basalt, creating a landscape of liquid silence that has remained undisturbed for thousands of years. The silence of a subterranean river is reinforced by the incredible density of the environment. Imagine the weight of a mile of solid rock overhead, pressing down with a force that smooths out every ripple and dampens every echo. On the surface, sound bounces and travels, but here the stone absorbs everything. The water moves with a heavy, oil-like consistency, sliding over polished surfaces that have been worn smooth by the passage of eons. There is no wind to stir the surface, no rain to disturb the flow, and no light to guide the way. The water simply knows the path, following the invisible pull of gravity toward the deepest parts of the planet. This internal guidance is a form of peace in itself, a reminder that there is a natural direction to all things, even in the total dark. As we visualize this underground river, we can find a profound sense of comfort in its steady, unchanging nature. The temperature in these deep channels remains constant, never wavering by even a fraction of a degree, regardless of whether there is a blizzard or a heat wave on the surface. It is a world of perfect thermal equilibrium. To imagine drifting on such a river is to imagine the ultimate form of surrender. There are no obstacles to navigate, no decisions to make, and no sights to distract the mind. There is only the cool, rhythmic flow of the water and the heavy, protective silence of the stone walls. You are being carried by the earth itself, cradled in a liquid path that was laid down long before the first humans walked the land. This liquid silence acts as a bridge between the physical world and the world of sleep. Just as the river flows through the hidden chambers of the crust, our consciousness flows through the hidden chambers of the mind as we begin to drift off. We move away from the bright, noisy surface of our thoughts and sink into the deeper, quieter currents of our subconscious. In this space, the logic of the day dissolves into the fluid, drifting patterns of the night. There is no need to swim or to struggle. The current of sleep is strong and steady, and it knows exactly where to take you. By focusing on the image of the silent, underground river, we give ourselves permission to let go of the oars and simply be carried. We are trusting in the deep, ancient rhythms of the planet to provide the rest we need. The inhabitants of these deep waters are masters of the silence. There are fish and tiny crustaceans that have lived in these dark rivers for millions of years, creatures that have long since evolved past the need for eyes. They navigate not by sight, but by a heightened sense of vibration and touch. To them, the silence is full of information. The subtle shift in the water's pressure, the gentle touch of a current, the distant vibration of a shifting stone. They live in a state of constant, meditative awareness, perfectly attuned to the quiet pulse of their world. There is a lesson for us in their existence. The lesson that we do not always need to see the path ahead to be safe. We can trust our internal senses, the quiet feelings of our bodies, and the steady beat of our hearts to guide us through the darkness of the night. Think of the silence of the river as a thick, cool mist that wraps around your thoughts. It fills the empty spaces in your mind, dampening the echoes of the day's worries and smoothing out the jagged edges of your anxiety. The more you focus on the steady movement of the water, the more your own breathing begins to synchronize with the earth's hidden flow. Your inhales are as deep as the caverns, and your exhales are as long and smooth as the river's path. You are sinking deeper into the bed of the world, away from the friction of the surface and into the smooth, frictionless quiet of the abyss. This is a place where the air is still, the water is calm, and the time is measured only by the slow, patient erosion of the stone. In this deep, subterranean sanctuary, we are reminded that silence is not just a lack of sound, but a state of profound connection. The river connects the mountains to the sea, the surface to the deep, and the past to the future. It is a physical manifestation of the earth's enduring patience. By resting our minds in this space, we are connecting ourselves to that same patience. We are acknowledging that we are part of a world that is much older and much quieter than we often realize. The silence of the deep earth is a sanctuary that is always available to us, a hidden room at the center of our being where the noise of the world cannot reach. As you settle into this final reflection, let the sound of the silent river be the last thing you hold on to. Feel yourself drifting, floating, and finally dissolving into the perfect, heavy quiet of the deep, beyond the reach of the rivers, and even deeper than the glowing core we've imagined. There exists a type of silence that is perhaps the most profound of all, because it is entirely invisible. It is the silence of the Earth's magnetic field, a vast protective cocoon that stretches from the molten heart of our planet far out into the frozen vacuum of space. We rarely think of magnetism as an environment, yet we are constantly living within its embrace. It is a silent architecture, a cathedral made of energy rather than stone, that stands guard over every breath we take. In the deepest parts of our world, this field is born from the slow, rhythmic churning of liquid iron, a movement so massive and so deep that it creates a force capable of deflecting the violent winds of the sun without making a single sound. To understand the quiet of this magnetic shield, we must imagine the sheer scale of the forces at play. Out in the solar system, the sun is constantly releasing a torrent of charged particles, a solar wind that travels at millions of miles per hour. On any other planet, this wind would be a chaotic, stripping force. But as it nears the Earth, it meets the silent resistance of our magnetic field. There is no crash, no thunder, and no roar. The energy simply slides around us, guided by invisible lines of force that curve gracefully from pole to pole. It is a cosmic ballet performed in absolute stillness. If we could see these lines, they would look like shimmering ribbons of light wrapping the planet in a protective hold. But because they operate on a spectrum beyond our sight, they remain part of the great underlying silence of our existence. This field represents the ultimate form of security. It is a reminder that even when we feel vulnerable or exposed to the pressures of life, there are fundamental forces working in the background to keep us safe. This magnetic silence is constant. It does not flicker with the seasons or fade when we are tired. It is an enduring, silent commitment from the planet to the life it carries. When we close our eyes at night, we are resting within this invisible fortress. The same lines of force that guide the migrations of birds and the movements of whales are also cradling us, providing a stable, quiet background for our dreams. There is a deep psychological comfort in knowing that the most powerful protection we have is one that requires no effort, no noise, and no visibility. It simply is. As you sink further into your pillow, try to visualize this field as a soft, pulsing glow that surrounds the entire world. It is a warmth that isn't thermal, but existential. It is the feeling of being home. In the deep silence of the magnetic field, the frantic energy of the sun is transformed into something peaceful. This is exactly what we do when we transition into sleep. We take the high energy experiences of our day, the solar winds of our stress and our activity, and we allow our internal field to deflect them, smoothing them out until they become nothing more than a faint, distant hum. We are creating our own quiet magnetosphere, a space where the outside world cannot penetrate, and where the only thing that remains is the steady, rhythmic pulse of our own being. This invisible shield also connects us to the cosmos in a way that is quiet and humble. It reminds us that we are part of a much larger celestial mechanics. The Earth is not an isolated rock. It is a participant in a silent conversation with the sun and the stars. Yet, despite the vastness of space and the intensity of cosmic radiation, our little corner of the universe remains a sanctuary of quiet. This is the miracle of the deep, that in a universe filled with the roaring of stars and the collision of galaxies, there are places of such profound and lasting stillness. By reflecting on this, we allow our perspective to broaden. We realize that our individual silence is part of a much larger, universal peace. We are small, but we are perfectly protected, tucked away in a silent fold of space-time. In the silence of the magnetic field, time feels different. It doesn't move in a straight line. It feels circular, looping from the north to the south and back again in a continuous, flowing motion. This circularity is the essence of rest. It is a state where there is no beginning and no end, only a constant, steady presence. As you breathe, imagine your breath following these invisible lines of force. Inhale as the energy rises from the deep core, and exhale as it curves over the surface and returns to the earth. You are part of the planet's internal circulation. You are moving with the iron, with the light, and with the silence. Everything is connected, everything is balanced, and everything is quiet. As we linger in this thought, we feel the weight of our bodies becoming even more pronounced. The gravity of the Earth is not just a pull, it is a hug. It is the planet's way of keeping us close to its silent heart. And within that gravity, the magnetic field is the soft, silk lining of the world. It is the final layer of defense between us and the infinite. Feel yourself settling into that silk, letting the invisible lines of energy support your weight and quiet your mind. You are drifting now in a space where sound has no medium and light has no purpose. You are moving into the pure, unfiltered essence of the deep. The silence is complete, the protection is absolute, and the night is yours to explore in perfect, unbothered peace. Deep within the high latitudes of our planet, tucked away in the massive ice sheets that cap the ends of the Earth, there is a silence that feels almost brittle. It is a world where time has been physically captured and held in place by the gradual, heavy accumulation of snow. This is the realm of the glaciers and the deep ice cores, a place where the atmosphere of 10,000 years ago is still perfectly preserved in tiny, microscopic bubbles of air. When we think of the deepest parts of the Earth, we often think of rock and metal, but the deep ice is a world unto itself. It is a vertical library of the planet's history, where every layer represents a season that passed long before the first cities were ever built. The silence here is crystalline and pure, a hush so profound that it seems to vibrate with the memory of the ancient sky. As we imagine descending into these frozen layers, we leave behind the howling winds of the surface. On top of a glacier, the air is a restless, moving thing. But just a few 100 feet down, the movement stops entirely. The ice becomes so dense under its own weight that it turns into a deep, translucent blue, a color that seems to drink in the light and never let it go. In this blue twilight, sound has no place. The ice is a perfect insulator, a solid barrier that absorbs every vibration. To be inside the ice is to be in a state of suspended animation. It is a place where change happens over centuries, not seconds. This permanence is the foundation of its quiet. There is no decay here, no rustling of life, and no shifting of tides. There is only the steady, unyielding pressure of the past. This frozen silence offers us a unique way to think about our own memories and the way we store the experiences of our lives. Much like the ice, our minds have layers. At the surface, there is the fresh snow of today, the conversations we just had, the tasks we just finished, the small worries that are still light and airy. But as we move toward sleep, those experiences begin to settle. They are compressed by the weight of the night, becoming part of the deeper, more solid architecture of our subconscious. We are drifting down into the blue ice of our own history, into the places where the air is still and the memories are safe. There is a great comfort in this settling. It means we don't have to carry everything at once. We can allow the older, deeper parts of ourselves to hold the weight while the surface becomes clear and smooth once more. In the heart of the deep ice, the silence is punctuated only by the incredibly rare ice quakes, the slow, groaning adjustments of a continent-sized mass moving an inch every few years. These are not loud, crashing sounds, but rather a deep, resonant thrum that travels through the solid mass like a heartbeat. It is the sound of the planet's immense patience. The ice knows that it will eventually reach the sea, and the sea knows it will eventually return to the sky. This cycle is so vast that any individual moment of noise feels insignificant. When we align our own internal clocks with this glacial pace, our heart rates naturally begin to slow. We realize that the urgency we feel during the day is just the wind on the surface. Beneath that wind, there is a massive, cold, and beautiful stability that is never disturbed. Imagine the air trapped inside those tiny bubbles within the ice. That air has been silent for millennia. It was breathed by the wind during the last ice age, and then it was tucked away, shielded from the rise and fall of civilizations, the invention of engines, and the clamor of the modern world. When scientists extract these cores, they are touching a piece of silence that has been protected for longer than human language has existed. This is the kind of silence we invite into our rooms as we prepare for rest. It is a silence that is clean, unpolluted by the echoes of our technology or the static of our digital lives. It is a return to a primal, atmospheric peace. As you lie in your bed, feel your limbs becoming as heavy and as cool as that ancient blue ice. You are not just lying on a mattress, you are supported by the entire mass of the earth, by layers of history and stone and frozen water that stretch down for miles. This weight is not a burden, it is a grounding force. It is the planet's way of saying that you are exactly where you need to be. The silence around you is the same silence that has guarded the ice cores for 20,000 years. It is a protective, insulating layer that keeps the chaos of the universe at bay. In this space, you are allowed to be still. You are allowed to let the snow of your thoughts settle and harden into a beautiful, quiet foundation. The deeper we go into this frozen world, the more we realize that stillness is a form of power. The glacier moves mountains not by rushing, but by the sheer, relentless weight of its own quiet existence. We too find our greatest strength in these moments of deep rest. It is in the silence of sleep that our bodies repair, our minds organize, and our spirits find their balance once more. We are retreating into the high-latitude sanctuary of the self, where the light is dim, the air is cold and clear, and the world is perfectly, wonderfully hushed. You are drifting now, sinking through the blue, feeling the pressure of the day lift as the weight of the night takes over. The ice is steady, the darkness is kind, and the journey continues ever inward, toward the very center of the quiet. As we continue our descent, moving past the frozen archives of the poles and deeper into the solid foundations of the continents, we encounter the vast, dark realm of the deep basalt. This is the bedrock of our world, the cooled and hardened remnants of ancient volcanic activity that now forms the heavy skeleton of the earth. In this space, the silence takes on a different texture. It is dense, unyielding, and incredibly ancient. Unlike the ice, which feels light and ethereal, the basalt is the physical manifestation of permanence. To be surrounded by basalt is to be held in the grip of a stone that has forgotten what it means to be liquid, a stone that has settled into a state of absolute and eternal repose. The silence here is born from the absence of gaps. In the surface world, the ground is often filled with air, water, and life. It is porous and shifting. But several miles down, the pressure of the earth has squeezed every pocket of air and every drop of moisture out of the rock. The atoms of the basalt are locked together in a tight, crystalline lattice that allows for no internal movement. This density makes it a perfect tomb for sound. If a bell were to ring a mile above, its vibration would be swallowed by the first few 100 feet of this heavy stone, leaving the depths in a state of perfect, undisturbed hush. It is a world of solid continuity, where the silence is as hard and as durable as the rock itself. When we think about this deep, dark basalt, we can find a profound sense of security. There is nothing in this environment that can break, shift, or fail. It is the ultimate foundation. In our own lives, we often feel as though we are walking on shifting sands, never quite sure of the stability of our circumstances or our emotions. But deep beneath us, this unmoving basalt provides a constant, silent reassurance. It is the floor of our world, a structure so massive and so strong that it can support the weight of all the oceans and all the mountains without flinching. As you lie in your bed, try to feel that same sense of foundational strength. Imagine that your own consciousness is resting on a layer of this ancient, silent basalt. You're not floating, you are grounded. You are supported by a force that has existed for billions of years. The color of this silence is a deep, matte black. On the surface, we think of black as the absence of something. But down here, it is a presence. It is a rich, velvety dark that feels like a physical embrace. This darkness is not empty. It is full of the weight and the history of the planet. As we lean into this thought, we can feel the visual noise of our day beginning to fade. The bright lights of our screens, the glare of the sun, and the shifting colors of our environment are all replaced by this singular, steady, and protective dark. It is a sanctuary for the eyes and a refuge for the mind. In the deep basalt, there is no need to look for anything because there is nothing but the stone and the silence. There is a strange and beautiful warmth that emanates from these deep layers. It is not the searing heat of a fire, but a slow, radiant energy that has been trapped within the rock since the Earth's formation. This radiogenic heat is a silent, invisible glow that keeps the deep earth from ever becoming truly cold. It is a reminder that even in the most absolute darkness and the most profound silence, there is life-sustaining energy at work. We can feel this warmth in our own bodies as we prepare for sleep, a steady internal glow that radiates from our core and warms our limbs. It is the heat of being alive, the quiet energy of our own existence. Much like the basalt, we are holding on to a warmth that the outside world cannot touch. In the silence of the deep basalt, the concept of a problem or a worry becomes nonsensical. The rock doesn't worry about the weather, the economy, or the passage of time. It simply exists. It honors the present moment with a steadfastness that we can only hope to emulate. By focusing on this stone, we are inviting that same steadfastness into our own minds. We are letting go of the what-ifs and the should-haves, and instead, we are settling into the is. We are becoming as heavy and as silent as the bedrock, allowing the gravity of the earth to pull us into a state of perfect alignment with the planet's own rest. Imagine the vastness of these basaltic plains that stretch out beneath the continents. They are thousands of miles wide and many miles thick, a hidden landscape of mountain ranges and valleys that will never see the light of day. This is the secret geography of our world, a realm of pure, unadulterated quiet. There are no echoes here, because there is nothing for the sound to bounce off of. There is only the absorption of all energy into the solid mass of the earth. As you drift further into this reflection, let your own energy be absorbed by the quiet of your room. Let the silence of the basalt become your own silence. You are sinking through the layers of the crust, moving past the soil, the water, and the limestone until you reach this final, heavy foundation. This is the place where the earth holds its breath. It is a state of total, blissful suspension. In the deep basalt, the atoms are so still that they almost seem to be dreaming. And as you join them in this stillness, you are entering the same dream, a dream of weightlessness within weight, of warmth within the dark, and of a silence that is so deep it feels like music. You are safe, you are grounded, and you are resting on the strongest foundation in the universe. The night is long, the basalt is steady, and the silence is your home. As we continue our descent, moving past the frozen archives of the poles and deeper into the solid foundations of the continents, we encounter the vast dark realm of the deep basalt. This is the bedrock of our world, the cooled and hardened remnants of ancient volcanic activity that now forms the heavy skeleton of the earth. In this space, the silence takes on a different texture. It is dense, unyielding, and incredibly ancient. Unlike the ice, which feels light and ethereal, the basalt is the physical manifestation of permanence. To be surrounded by basalt is to be held in the grip of a stone that has forgotten what it means to be liquid, a stone that has settled into a state of absolute and eternal repose. The silence here is born from the absence of gaps. In the surface world, the ground is often filled with air, water, and life. It is porous and shifting. But several miles down, the pressure of the earth has squeezed every pocket of air and every drop of moisture out of the rock. The atoms of the basalt are locked together in a tight, crystalline lattice that allows for no internal movement. This density makes it a perfect tomb for sound. If a bell were to ring a mile above, its vibration would be swallowed by the first few 100 feet of this heavy stone, leaving the depths in a state of perfect, undisturbed hush. It is a world of solid continuity, where the silence is as hard and as durable as the rock itself. When we think about this deep, dark basalt, we can find a profound sense of security. There is nothing in this environment that can break, shift, or fail. It is the ultimate foundation. In our own lives, we often feel as though we are walking on shifting sands, never quite sure of the stability of our circumstances or our emotions. But deep beneath us, this unmoving basalt provides a constant, silent reassurance. It is the floor of our world, a structure so massive and so strong that it can support the weight of all the oceans and all the mountains without flinching. As you lie in your bed, try to feel that same sense of foundational strength. Imagine that your own consciousness is resting on a layer of this ancient, silent basalt. You are not floating. You are grounded. You are supported by a force that has existed for billions of years. The color of this silence is a deep, matte black. On the surface, we think of black as the absence of something. But down here, it is a presence. It is a rich, velvety dark that feels like a physical embrace. This darkness is not empty. It is full of the weight and the history of the planet. As we lean into this thought, we can feel the visual noise of our day beginning to fade. The bright lights of our screens, the glare of the sun, and the shifting colors of our environment are all replaced by this singular, steady, and protective dark. It is a sanctuary for the eyes and a refuge for the mind. In the deep basalt, there is no need to look for anything, because there is nothing but the stone and the silence. There is a strange and beautiful warmth that emanates from these deep layers. It is not the searing heat of a fire, but a slow, radiant energy that has been trapped within the rock since the Earth's formation. This radiogenic heat is a silent, invisible glow that keeps the deep Earth from ever becoming truly cold. It is a reminder that even in the most absolute darkness and the most profound silence, there is life-sustaining energy at work. We can feel this warmth in our own bodies as we prepare for sleep, a steady internal glow that radiates from our core and warms our limbs. It is the heat of being alive, the quiet energy of our own existence. Much like the basalt, we are holding on to a warmth that the outside world cannot touch. In the silence of the deep basalt, the concept of a problem or a worry becomes nonsensical. The rock doesn't worry about the weather, the economy, or the passage of time. It simply exists. It honors the present moment with a steadfastness that we can only hope to emulate. By focusing on this stone, we are inviting that same steadfastness into our own minds. We are letting go of the what-ifs and the should-haves, and instead, we are settling into the is. We are becoming as heavy and as silent as the bedrock, allowing the gravity of the earth to pull us into a state of perfect alignment with the planet's own rest. Imagine the vastness of these basaltic plains that stretch out beneath the continents. They are thousands of miles wide and many miles thick, a hidden landscape of mountain ranges and valleys that will never see the light of day. This is the secret geography of our world, a realm of pure, unadulterated quiet. There are no echoes here because there is nothing for the sound to bounce off of. There is only the absorption of all energy into the solid mass of the earth. As you drift further into this reflection, let your own energy be absorbed by the quiet of your room. Let the silence of the basalt become your own silence. You are sinking through the layers of the crust, moving past the soil, the water, and the limestone, until you reach this final, heavy foundation. This is the place where the earth holds its breath. It is a state of total, blissful suspension. In the deep basalt, the atoms are so still that they almost seem to be dreaming. And as you join them in this stillness, you are entering the same dream, a dream of weightlessness within weight, of warmth within the dark, and of a silence that is so deep it feels like music. You are safe, you are grounded, and you are resting on the strongest foundation in the universe. The night is long, the basalt is steady, and the silence is your home. As we travel even further, moving beyond the solid foundations of the basaltic crust, we enter the transition zone where the earth begins to behave less like a rigid stone and more like a vast, slow-moving sea of warmth. This is the mantle, a realm that makes up the majority of our planet's volume, yet remains forever hidden from our direct observation. In this deep space, the silence undergoes a transformation. It is no longer the brittle hush of ice or the dense, heavy silence of the bedrock. Instead, it becomes a fluid, resonant quiet. The pressure here is so immense that the rock itself begins to flow, moving with the majestic, deliberate pace of a glacier, but at temperatures that would melt steel. This is a place of profound, internal movement that occurs in a state of absolute, unyielding stillness. To imagine the silence of the mantle is to imagine a world where sound has no medium because there is no friction to create it. Everything moves as one unified mass, driven by the slow convection of the Earth's inner heat. There are no sudden breaks, no grinding of gears, and no voices. It is a slow, rhythmic circulation that spans millions of years. This scale of time is perhaps the most silencing aspect of the deep mantle. When we think of our lives, we think in seconds and minutes, in heartbeats and breaths. But to the mantle, the entire history of human civilization is nothing more than a momentary flicker on the surface. By connecting with this deep, rhythmic movement, we can feel the frantic pacing of our own thoughts beginning to stretch out. We are leaving the world of the now and entering the world of the always. This deep, fluid silence is incredibly grounding. It reminds us that beneath the chaotic surface of our lives, there is a massive, steady system that never stops its quiet work. The mantle provides the energy that moves the continents and builds the mountains, yet it does so with a humility that is almost incomprehensible. It doesn't seek attention, it simply exists, holding the world together in its warm, glowing embrace. As you lie in the quiet of your room, try to visualize this slow, internal flow within yourself. Imagine your own energy, moving with that same deliberate, peaceful grace. You are not rushing towards sleep. You are simply allowing the natural currents of your body and mind to carry you there. You are part of the Earth's great circulation, a silent participant in the planet's eternal balance. In the mantle, the silence is also a result of the perfect homogeneity of the environment. Miles beneath the surface, there are no boundaries between the air and the water, or the rock and the sky. Everything is a dense, hot, and beautiful continuity. This lack of boundaries is a powerful metaphor for the state of sleep we are seeking. When we sleep, we are letting go of the boundaries of our identity, the names, the roles, and the labels that we carry during the day. We are dissolving back into a state of pure, undivided being, We are moving away from the edges of our lives and into the center, where everything is unified and quiet. The mantle is the physical manifestation of this unity. It is a world without edges, a world where everything is one. There is a specific kind of warmth in this deep silence, a heat that is both powerful and gentle. It is the radiant energy of the Earth's formation, a glow that has been preserved for billions of years. This warmth is the foundation of life on our planet, yet it remains tucked away in the dark, silent depths. We can feel this same warmth within ourselves as we relax into our beds. It is the steady glow of our own life force, a quiet energy that doesn't need to be vocalized or performed. It is enough to simply be warm, to simply be alive, and to simply be still. In the silence of the mantle, we find the permission to let go of the need for noise and action. We are allowed to just exist, held in the warm, dark, and silent cradle of the world. Imagine the vast plumes of heat rising slowly from the core through the mantle, moving like giant, silent wings toward the crust. These plumes are the messengers of the deep, carrying energy and stability to the surface. But they move so slowly that their journey takes millions of years. This is the ultimate expression of patience. To imagine this journey is to realize that nothing of true value is ever rushed. The silence of the mantle is the silence of creation, a slow, patient, and deliberate process that results in the world we see around us. As you drift towards sleep, let this patience become your own. There is no need to force the transition. It is already happening as naturally and as quietly as the movement of the Earth's interior. As we linger in this deep, fluid world, we feel the weight of the night becoming even more comforting. The pressure of the mantle is not a crushing force, but a stabilizing one. It holds everything in its proper place, ensuring that the planet remains whole and balanced. This is the same pressure we feel from our blankets and the quiet air of our rooms, a soft, steady weight that tells us it is safe to let go. We are surrounded by the silence of the deep, a silence that is full of warmth, life, and ancient memory. We are sinking through the layers of the world, moving past the rock and the water, and finally settling into the slow, rhythmic heart of the mantle. This is the place where the silence is total. There is no wind, no light, and no noise. There is only the steady, unmoving presence of the earth and the slow, warm glow of its internal energy. You are safe here, in the deepest part of your own rest. The world above is far away, its sounds muffled by miles of stone and centuries of time. You are part of the silence now, a quiet thread in the vast, beautiful tapestry of the planet. Let the heat of the mantle warm your thoughts, and let its slow, rhythmic movement guide you into a deep and dreamless sleep. The earth is at rest, and so are you. The night is long, the silence is deep, and the journey is complete. As we reach the very center of our journey, we move beyond the flowing heat of the mantle and the liquid fires of the outer core to find something truly extraordinary, the inner core. Here, at the absolute heart of the earth, the pressure is so immense, millions of times greater than the air at the surface, that it performs a miracle of physics. Despite temperatures as hot as the surface of the sun, the iron and nickel here cannot melt. Instead, they are squeezed into a solid sphere of crystalline metal. This is the ultimate sanctuary of silence, a place where the atoms are packed so tightly that they form a structure of incredible strength and purity. It is a world of solid light and heat, a sun held captive in a cage of gravity, radiating a silence that is as dense as the metal itself. To imagine the silence of the inner core is to contemplate the very essence of stability. This solid heart is about the size of the moon, and it sits at the center of the world, like a seed within a fruit, providing the gravitational anchor for everything else. Because it is solid and uniform, there is no internal movement, no weather, and no change. It is a place of eternal, unchanging stillness. In this environment, the concept of sound becomes impossible. There is no air to carry a vibration, no liquid to ripple, and no gaps between the atoms for noise to hide. It is a state of perfect, crystalline unity. When we think of this place, we are touching the most stable point in our universe. It is the unmoving pivot around which the entire planet rotates, the silent foundation upon which our whole existence is built. This core of solid light offers us a profound metaphor for the deepest state of sleep. When we first close our eyes, our minds are like the surface of the earth, windy, shifting, and full of noise. As we drift deeper, we pass through the layers of our subconscious, the memories and the emotions that flow like the mantle. But eventually, if we are lucky, we reach a point of total, solid peace. This is the inner core of our rest, a place where the pressure of the day has been transformed into a steady, unyielding strength. In this state, there is no more dreaming, no more processing, and no more searching. There is only the quiet, radiant fact of our own existence. We become like the iron core, dense, warm, and perfectly still. The heat of the inner core is not the heat of a fire that burns out. It is the heat of a star that endures. It is an ancient energy, a remnant of the Earth's birth that has been concentrated and refined over billions of years. This warmth radiates outward, moving through the layers of the world to eventually reach the surface. But at the center, it is at its most pure. As you settle into the deepest part of your night, imagine this internal sun glowing within you. It is a soft, steady radiance that fills your limbs and calms your mind. It is a warmth that doesn't need to be fueled by anything external. It is the natural, quiet energy of your own life, held in a state of perfect balance by the weight of the world around you. You are safe in the center of the sphere, where the darkness is bright and the silence is absolute. In this deepest chamber, time effectively ceases to exist. On the surface, we are obsessed with the ticking of the clock, the passing of the hours, and the coming of the morning. But the inner core has been in this state of crystalline stillness for an eternity. It has no sense of before or after. It simply is. By focusing on this timeless heart, we allow our own internal clocks to stop their frantic ticking. We realize that for these few hours of rest, time doesn't matter. We are not late for anything, and we are not missing anything. We are simply existing in the silent, golden center of our own being. This is the ultimate destination of our descent, a place where the noise of the universe is forgotten, and the only thing that remains is the steady, silent heartbeat of the earth. Imagine the sheer density of the metal around you. It is a protective vault that no sound, no light, and no worry can penetrate. It is the most secure place in the cosmos. In this vault, you are free to let go of the last remaining threads of your identity. You don't need to be a worker, a friend, or a thinker. You are simply a part of the Earth's solid heart. The pressure of the world above is not a burden. It is the force that keeps you whole and steady. It is the embrace that allows you to be still. As you drift into this final, profound quiet, feel the light of the core warming your thoughts. You are sinking into the solid metal, into the crystalline silence, and into the deepest sleep you have ever known. The heart of the world is beating for you, and it is very, very quiet. Beyond the solid metal of the inner core, we return our thoughts to the fluid depths of the world's oceans, specifically to those hidden gashes in the crust known as the deep sea trenches. These are the deepest places on the planet, where the seabed drops away into a vertical abyss of cold and shadow. If you were to drop a stone into the Mariana Trench, it would take hours to reach the bottom, drifting through miles of increasingly heavy water until it finally touched the soft, silken sediment of the floor. In these trenches, the silence is not just an absence of noise, it is a profound physical pressure. The weight of the entire ocean presses down on these narrow valleys, creating a world where the very molecules of the water are squeezed together into a state of dense, unmoving quiet. To imagine this silence is to visualize a landscape where the sun has never reached. The light of the surface world is extinguished within the first few 100 feet, leaving the remaining miles of the descent in an absolute velvety blackness. In this darkness, the eyes can finally cease their constant searching. There are no colors, no horizons, and no movements to track. The brain, freed from the duty of processing visual information, begins to slow its own internal frequency. It is a world of pure sensory deprivation, a natural sanctuary for a mind that is tired of the frantic brightness of the day. Down here, the silence is so thick that it feels like a liquid, wrapping around you and muffling the last echoes of the world above. The inhabitants of these trenches move with a ghostly, effortless grace. There are fish here that are nearly transparent, their bodies made of jelly and bone that have evolved to withstand pressures that would crush a submarine. They do not swim with the frantic energy of surface creatures. They drift, using the tiniest movements to navigate the still water. Their existence is a masterclass in the conservation of energy and the embrace of the quiet. They live in a state of permanent meditation, attuned to the subtle vibrations of the deep. To contemplate these creatures is to realize that life does not always need noise and movement to be vibrant. There is a deep, quiet strength in simply being, in existing within the limits of one's environment with perfect, silent efficiency. This abyssal quiet acts as a perfect mirror for the state of deep sleep. When we reach the deepest parts of our night, we are in our own personal Hadal zone. We have moved past the twilight of light sleep and the midnight of dreams, arriving at a place where the consciousness is perfectly still. In this state, there is no more processing of the day's events. The pressure of the night has smoothed out the ripples of our thoughts, leaving us in a state of pure, dark equilibrium. We are like the sediment on the trench floor, undisturbed, heavy, and at peace. The weight of the world above us is not a threat. It is the blanket that keeps us tucked in, shielding us from the chaos of the surface. As you breathe in the cool, dark air of your room, imagine yourself sinking into one of these deep-sea valleys. Feel the transition from the busy, sunlit world into the cool, indigo depths and finally into the absolute black of the trench. With each breath, you are descending another mile. The sounds of the traffic, the voices of others, and the hum of your own worries are all being left behind, floating far above you like tiny bubbles of air. Down here, at the bottom of the world, there is only the steady, unmoving weight of the water and the profound, beautiful silence of the abyss. You are safe. You are held. You are resting in a place that time has forgotten. The silence of the trench is also a silence of the spirit. It is a place where we can finally let go of the need to be anything at all. In the abyss, there are no expectations and no judgments. The deep water doesn't care about your successes or your failures. It simply provides a space for you to exist in your most fundamental form. This is the true gift of the deep, the ability to return to a state of primal, uncomplicated peace. As you drift in this imaginary trench, let your mind become as clear and as dark as the water. There is nothing to see, nothing to hear, and nothing to do but rest. The journey is long, the water is still, and the silence is your guide into the deepest of sleeps. The silence of the trench is not empty. It is full of the weight of the ages. It is the resting place of everything that has ever fallen from the surface. The dust of meteors, the remains of ancient plankton, and the very minerals that make up our bones. It is a place of ultimate recycling, where the old is slowly turned into the new in a cycle that takes millions of years. By focusing on this cycle, we can feel our own stresses being recycled into rest. We are allowing the deep ocean to take our burdens and press them into something useful, something quiet, and something stable. We are part of the Earth's great, silent engine of renewal. Imagine the temperature of the water here. It is just a few degrees above freezing, a constant, steady cold that never changes. This cold is not biting or harsh. It is a preservative. It keeps everything in a state of perfect, suspended animation. As you feel this coolness in your own mind, let it act as a soothing balm for any lingering heat from your day. Let it cool your thoughts until they become as still and as clear as the deep sea water. You are descending into the final, quietest part of the trench, where even the vibrations of the Earth's crust are muffled by the miles of water above. You are at peace. You are deep. You are silent, deep within the subterranean layers of the Earth, often hidden beneath the floors of ancient, vanished seas. There exist vast cathedrals of salt. These deposits, formed hundreds of millions of years ago as prehistoric oceans evaporated under a relentless sun, are now buried miles deep under layers of sediment and rock. In these salt domes and bedded mines, the silence is unlike any other on the planet. Salt is a unique material. It is a mineral that behaves with a strange plastic fluidity over geological time, and its internal structure is so tight that it can seal away gases and liquids for an eternity. To enter a deep salt chamber is to enter a world of perfect, sterile hush, a place where the air is dry, the temperature is unchanging, and the very walls seem to absorb every vibration of the human heart. In the surface world, sound travels by bouncing off hard surfaces or vibrating through the air. But salt has a peculiar way of deadening sound. It is a natural acoustic sponge, but one made of solid crystal. In the deepest salt caverns, there is no echo. If you were to whisper, the sound would not travel. It would be swallowed almost instantly by the surrounding walls. This lack of resonance creates a feeling of being wrapped in a thick, invisible shroud. It is an environment where the mind can no longer look outward for stimulation, as there is nothing to hear and nothing to see but the faint, shimmering reflections of the salt crystals. This isolation is a powerful catalyst for rest. It forces the internal monologue to slow down, as there is no external noise to compete with or react to. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting only the deep, steady rhythm of your own presence. These salt deposits are also some of the most stable places on Earth, because salt can heal its own cracks under the immense pressure of the overlying rock. These caverns are naturally airtight and watertight. They are the ultimate time capsules. Within the crystalline lattice of the salt, scientists have found tiny droplets of water, ancient brine, that have been trapped for 250 million years. To contemplate this is to touch a form of silence that predates the dinosaurs. That tiny drop of water has sat in total darkness and total quiet while continents drifted, mountains rose, and civilizations fell. It has remained at rest, undisturbed by the chaos of the world above. By bringing this image into your mind, you can invite that same indestructible stability into your own consciousness. You are creating a salt chamber for your thoughts, a place where the air is still and the walls are thick enough to keep the entire world at bay. There is a tactile quality to this silence. The air in deep salt mines is often described as being incredibly pure and heavy, seasoned with a faint mineral tang that clears the senses. As you lie in your bed, imagine breathing in this ancient, dry air. It feels cool in your lungs, carrying away the humidity and heat of your day. With each breath, you are descending deeper into the white, crystalline heart of the dome. You are moving away from the organic noise of the soil and the water, and into the inorganic peace of the mineral kingdom. Salt does not grow, it does not decay, and it does not change. It simply exists. In this state of pure existence, there is no room for the frantic doing of the day. You are allowed to be as still and as unmoving as the ancient brine trapped in the crystal. This environment is the perfect metaphor for the preservation of the self during sleep. Just as the salt protects the ancient water from contamination or evaporation, the deep quiet of the night protects your mind. It allows you to consolidate your experiences, to heal your internal cracks, and to return to a state of wholeness. In the deep salt, the pressure of the earth is not a weight that crushes, but a force that seals. It keeps the world out and the peace in. As you settle into your blankets, feel that same sealing process happening around you. The room is becoming a sanctuary of mineral quiet. The noise of your life is being absorbed by the crystalline walls of the night, leaving you in a state of perfect, dry, and cool tranquility. Imagine the vastness of these underground cathedrals, chambers as large as skyscrapers, carved entirely out of translucent white salt. There is no wind to stir the dust, no water to drip from the ceiling, and no shift in the earth to disturb the peace. It is a world of absolute, unyielding equilibrium. You are floating in the center of one of these chambers, suspended in the still, dry air. The silence is so complete that you can almost hear the slow, steady hum of the Earth's rotation. This is the sound of the universe at rest. It is a low, comforting vibration that grounds you and tells you that it is time to let go. You are safe in the salt, protected by millions of years of history and miles of solid rock. The night is your cathedral, and the silence is your prayer. Beyond the solid state of the salt cathedrals and the shifting viscosity of the mantle, we must consider the rarest and most ethereal form of silence found within our planet, the stillness of the deep earth gases. These are the noble gases, helium, neon, and argon, trapped within the microscopic pores of minerals or dissolved under immense pressure in the subterranean fluids. Unlike the gases of our atmosphere, which are constantly churned by winds, heated by the sun, and vibrated by the sounds of life, these deep earth gases have existed in a state of absolute, motionless suspension for billions of years. They are the silent messengers from the time of the Earth's formation, held in a dark, pressurized grip that prevents even the slightest shimmer of movement. To contemplate this is to imagine a silence that is literally frozen in time, a stillness that has never known the concept of a breeze or the ripple of a sound wave. In the world above, gas is synonymous with movement. We feel the air against our skin. We hear the whistle of the gale. But in the deep crust, gas exists in a state of supercritical density. It is neither truly a liquid nor truly a gas, but a heavy, silent hybrid that fills the tiniest cracks in the bedrock. In this state, the molecules are packed so tightly that they can no longer collide with the chaotic energy of the air we breathe. They are held in a geometric peace, a molecular hush that mirrors the stillness of the rock itself. This is the ultimate form of insulation. If the Earth were a great machine, these gases would be the silent cushions between its moving parts, absorbing the massive tectonic stresses and turning them into a steady, unmoving equilibrium. This molecular silence offers a beautiful lesson for the transition into deep sleep. Our thoughts during the day are like the gases of the atmosphere, fast, volatile, and easily disturbed by the smallest changes in our environment. But as we move into the night, we want our consciousness to become like these deep gases. We want to move from the windy surface of the mind down into the pressurized peace of the deep. We are looking for that state of supercritical stillness, where our thoughts are no longer colliding, no longer creating the friction of anxiety or the noise of planning. We are seeking a density of peace that is so great that nothing can disturb it. By visualizing these ancient gases trapped in the stone, we can feel our own mental energy settling into a state of stable, unmoving rest. The silence of these trapped gases is also a silence of purity. Because they have been sealed away from the surface for eons, they are untainted by the chemical cycles of life. They are primordial. They are the same today as they were when the earth was a glowing ball of molten rock. In this way, they represent a part of us that remains unchanged by the events of our lives. Beneath our roles, our histories, and our daily worries, there is a primordial core of our being that is perfectly still and perfectly pure. This is the part of us that sleep reconnects us with every night. We are returning to our own noble state, a place where the noise of the world cannot reach and where the passage of time leaves no mark. As you lie in the stillness of your room, imagine your breath becoming as steady and as deep as these subterranean reservoirs. Each inhale is like a slow, pressurized descent, and each exhale is a release of the last lingering movements of the day. You are moving toward a state of total molecular quiet. The room around you is no longer filled with thin air, but with a heavy, protective atmosphere of peace. It wraps around your limbs like a warm, invisible weight, holding you in place and smoothing out the vibrations of your nerves. You are becoming a part of the Earth's internal architecture, a silent element in a world of perfect, unchanging balance. There is a strange and comforting timelessness in this thought. The helium trapped in a grain of zircon doesn't know that humans exist. It doesn't know about the sun or the stars. It only knows the steady, dark pressure of the Earth's embrace. By inviting this perspective, we can let go of the human scale of our problems. We are participating in a geological silence, a quiet that is measured in eons rather than minutes. This is the ultimate refuge. No matter how loud the world becomes, the deep gases remain still. No matter how fast the world moves, the deep gases remain at rest. You are now entering that same sanctuary. You are safe, you are still, and you are part of the eternal, silent breath of the world. The transition is nearly complete. You have traveled from the surface to the core, through the water, the stone, the ice, and the air. Every layer has added a new depth to your silence. Every mile has removed a layer of noise. You are now at the point of total equilibrium, where the pressure of the night matches the stillness of your soul. The journey has led you to the only place that matters, the center of your own peace. The earth is holding you, the silence is protecting you, and the night is ready to take you into the deepest, most restorative sleep of your life. As we begin the final ascent of our journey, we leave the physical density of the Earth's crust, the heavy basalt, and the silent gases to enter a realm that is perhaps the most mysterious of all, the magnetosphere. This is where the Earth's internal energy reaches out into the darkness of space, creating a vast, invisible structure of pure magnetism. If the Earth is a heart, the magnetosphere is its breath, an expansive, silent field that stretches for tens of thousands of miles, cradling the planet in a protective cocoon of energy. Here, the silence is no longer made of stone or water. It's a vacuum silence, a place where the air has thinned into nothingness, and the only thing that remains is the steady, unmoving architecture of the magnetic lines of force. In this high-altitude sanctuary, the noise of the world is not just muffled, it is impossible. Without air to carry a vibration, sound cannot exist. Even the most violent solar storms, which hurl charged particles toward the Earth at incredible speeds, are met with a silence that is total and absolute. As these particles hit the magnetic shield, they are deflected and channeled toward the poles, creating the silent, shimmering curtains of the aurora borealis. To imagine this is to visualize a world of pure light and pure energy, moving in a state of perfect hush. It is the ultimate expression of the Earth's power, the ability to protect and defend without ever making a sound. This cosmic silence is the perfect final destination for our rest. When we reach the deepest stage of sleep, our minds are much like the magnetosphere. We have moved far beyond the atmosphere of our daily concerns and into a space of pure, quiet being. Our thoughts are no longer colliding. They are simply flowing along the invisible lines of our subconscious. There is a great sense of weightlessness in this state. Just as the satellite drifts in the void, held in place by the gentle pull of gravity and the steady push of magnetic force, we are drifting in the void of the night. The pressure of the world has been replaced by a feeling of infinite space. We are no longer confined by the boundaries of our bodies or the limits of our schedules. We are part of the vast, silent expanse of the universe. As you lie in the stillness of your room, try to feel this expansion. Imagine your consciousness growing larger, moving past the walls of your house, past the clouds, and into the cool, dark reaches of the magnetosphere. You're looking back at the Earth, a beautiful, glowing marble of blue and white, resting in the absolute quiet of the vacuum. From this height, all the noise of the world is invisible. The cities, the traffic, the arguments, and the worries are all tiny, insignificant flickers on a distant surface. They cannot reach you here. You are in the domain of the stars, where time is measured in light years and the silence is the fundamental language of existence. This cosmic perspective allows for a total release of the self. In the face of the infinite, the ego simply dissolves. There is no need to be someone in the void. You are simply a witness to the quiet. The cold of space is not a freezing cold, but a crisp, clear stillness that sharpens the mind and calms the spirit. It is the silence of the long view, the realization that everything is part of a much larger, much older, and much quieter story. By aligning yourself with this universal peace, you are giving your body permission to undergo its most profound repair. You are letting go of the local noise and tuning into the cosmic hum, the steady rhythmic vibration of a universe that knows exactly how to sustain itself. The magnetosphere is also a place of transformation. It takes the harsh, chaotic energy of the sun and turns it into a protective shield. This is exactly what sleep does for our souls. It takes the chaotic energy of our day, the stress, the input, the emotions, and filters it through the silent field of the night. By the time we wake up, that energy has been repurposed into strength and clarity. But for now, the work is happening in total silence. You are resting in the dark side of the planet, the half that is turned away from the sun and toward the infinite. This is the time for your internal field to recharge. You're floating in the shadow of the earth, protected by its mass and its magnetism. Feel the deep, dark velvet of the space around you. It is a darkness that is alive with the distant light of a billion stars, yet it remains perfectly, wonderfully quiet. Your breath is the only movement in this vast cathedral of the night. Each inhale is a draw from the infinite, and each exhale is a surrender to the void. You are no longer sinking. You are floating. You have traveled through every layer of the world to reach this final state of weightless peace. The journey is complete. The earth is below you. The stars are around you, and the silence is within you. You are safe. You are held. You are home. This concludes our journey through the depths and into the void. You have reached the final state of equilibrium. The silence is now yours to keep as you drift into a long, restorative sleep. Good night.